Who do people say that I am? Who do you say that I am? These are the two questions asked by Jesus to his disciples. The first question, somewhat Jesus was simply checking what people know about him, or what would be their idea about Jesus. And then his disciples answered, John the Baptist, Elijah, and the older prophets who died. Prophets in the sense that Jesus is usually identified with his teaching ministry or the preaching ministry of Jesus. A prophet usually announced the good news, at the same time denounce what is evil in the society. And basically, this is the identity of Jesus. That's why he was identified as John the Baptist, Elijah, and all the prophets who died. And we know once you're a prophet, once you speak the truth, the consequences of this is somehow death. Usahay, dinalanta mo storya kay basig delikado man. No? If I will tell the truth, many will get hurt. So I better keep my mouth shut. That's the usual attitude that we have. But when we talk about prophet as identified by Jesus, he would really talk no matter what. I will tell you not to please you, but I will tell you what the real situation is. So that's why Jesus is identified as prophet. What happened to Elijah? What happened to John the Baptist? He was a prophet and then was beheaded. So this is one of the preaching, this is one of the consequences of being a prophet. In the previous days that we have had, we were talking about discipleship. And once you intend to become a disciple, obviously you will have to bear the consequences of being a disciple. Meaning to say, more or less, you got to suffer a lot of things. The second question, and you, who do you say that I am? This time, Jesus is already checking his disciples. First question was directed towards other people. But this time, he asked his disciple, and you, who do you say that I am? The disciples were with Jesus for the past 3 years, probably in his public ministry. They heard him speak. They were able to witness different and marvelous things Jesus had done, performing miracles, healing the sick. So this time, Jesus is checking, nakaila bagyug kami sila sa ako. So he said, who do you say that I am? Then what was the answer of Peter? You are the Messiah, the Son of God. Eksapa niya ka. Kabalo ka, when a Messiah, he mentioned, he will be suffered, rejected by the elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law, and put to death. But after 3 days, he was raised to life. He was giving them, be cautious, dilita sa magstorya, because my time has not yet come. This simply, Jesus would want to check them whether they understood also why they followed him. In the previous days, again, I said many people followed Jesus maybe out of curiosity. But since the disciples were called by Jesus, he said, come, follow me, and they followed him. So this time, he said, nakasabot ba mo? Anong nasunod-sunod mo sa Quran? And who do you say that I am? Because as mentioned in our gospel, in the previous gospel, also in our gospel, discipleship is always equated with the cross. No? Once we intend to follow the Lord, there would be, watch out, suffering. No? Dili man siya bed of roses all the time. Doon ko ni Lord, so enjoy na kayang kinabuhi. Block na lang nimo. So now the question is for us, if Jesus also would appear this evening and would ask you, who do you say that I am? If he will ask you this question, who do you say that I am? What would be your answer? Natas klase pa mo ko tayo. Knowledge about Jesus is quite important. Diba no? Nga naman. If we somehow don't know about Him, how come we can follow Him? It is important to know when we were still little, siguro catechism, tudlo sa pare, or if you're in a religious school, you are taught by the catechist or mga madre, and then, okay, who is Jesus? Basically, we got our knowledge about Him from catechism, or from what we heard from our mama, from our papa, daddy, mga lola, lolo, and they tell us about the history or the story about Jesus. But the question is still the same. If He will come in front to you and He will ask you, who do you say that I am? I think this is not what we call a theological or a philosophical question. But this question, murabang tagus sa atong kasing-kasing if we try to reflect, because it entails a personal relationship with the Lord. Why? Because kung kakailan niya, how come you can love Him? And then how come you will follow Him? In a certain relationship, in a human relationship, as an analogy, before you fall in love, usually you get to know the person, right? Kailangan ginanin mo once, just like, ano to si Elmer siya? Kung may manguyab din mo, ipailaila sa sako, aha? Nandiyan no? Nagay magmuyab din mo, ilaila sa kung kinsa na siya, because it is important for us to know, di ba? How can you fall in love without knowing the person? Pwede ba na siya? Muna, nasa courtship niya. Gamay, no? Mag-ila-ila sa, unsa ba niya siya? Because it is important for you to know maybe the background or what. And then once you know the person, that's the time either it will make or break you. O, then niya. Or the more you will fall in love with the person, di ba? Masti, buta na siya. Pwede na. That's normal, no? And then afterwards, when you got to know the person and then fall in love with the person, what happened next? Well, what's next? Normally, after that method of getting to know and falling in love, normally, it will lead to the altar, right? Sometimes. But most of the time, that's the process of getting to know, the process of a certain relationship. That's why Jesus is telling His disciples, who do you say that I am? And you, personally, sikin sa man ko. Nakaila bagyod ka na ako. Kay once you know me, you got to fall in love with me and then follow me. And that is discipleship. Knowing Christ, loving Christ, and then following His footsteps. And that's what we call discipleship. It entails a lot of things. So while reflecting actually this gospel, I remember an old song, no? The gospel. Day by day, oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray. To know you more clearly, to love you more dearly, and to follow you more nearly. And basically, that's His calling for all of us tonight. Once we get to know the person of Jesus Christ, we are encouraged to fall in love with His ways. And falling in love with His ways, meaning to say, I am attracted to Him, and then I might be able to follow His ways. Ngayon, tinuod na din nga Kristiyano, tinuod na din nga disciples, tinuod na din nga followers of Christ. So basically, this is what we are doing and what we are praying. And hopefully, with Saint Michael, mahagit po ta nga mahimo po instrumento sa kalinaw, sa gugma ug uban ta. Amen?
Amen.
Please stand.